Okay. Hi, Tonka. Okay, so we have had some backstory already, some chat about your backstory and my backstory. So we'll kind of get started with this. I'm going to begin by asking just the opening questions that I ask everybody that I guide, just to see where you are in terms of your expectations about the awakening process and any fears that you have lingering. And then, as we just spoke about, we'll go into more depth as we talk about anything that you feel like you're confused about in the process. And for anybody who's watching this, you've said how you've been doing this for a long time and you're just confused about where you are in this, if you've seen through self or not. And there are so many conflicting views out there with all of the readings and listenings that you've done. So to begin with, what is wrong with the way things are right now, and in what ways do you expect them to change after crossing the gate?
I wouldn't say what is wrong, but definitely what is not comfortable is being in my own skin. Like after reading all this and listening to so many videos, I hoped that this contraction in my body would loosen up and that I would just feel more comfortable. And no matter how I understand in my mind how this all makes sense and that there is no me, it's still contracted being here. Obviously, I'm connected to this body, to this biochemistry here, and it's just not comfortable. And my hope is me going through the gate and absolutely know with a certainty that it will just be nicer to be here.
Actually, on that, I was planning on reading through all of the questions first, but now I really need to follow up on this one. So, um, okay, so when you talk about this contraction that you can't be with, is this an all the time contraction, or is this something that you notice certain points of the day, in certain situations?
When I meditate a lot, when I spend time in silence, it's very, very intense. And that was the pattern. Like I would get into spirituality, I would follow a teacher, and I would really, really get deep into it. And then this intensity of the feelings would come up to the point that I would feel sick in my stomach, and then I would feel so off, and I would then think, you are doing something wrong, you're gonna damage your brain, you won't be able to function, you won't be able to raise your children, because I was single mom for many, many years. And then that would scare me off. I would leave the whole thing alone, but then I come back again, and then the same thing happens. So now I can recognize that very, very flavor of that feeling, and I'm just to the point. This is just I have to find a way to get through this, because I've been running from this for so many years. I believe 20 years now, because I get so attracted to a teaching, to something, and I go, but then I get so obsessed with that too, because my problem is I don't know the middle way. I'm all in or all out, like I go to extremes.
You're not alone in that.
Yeah, and then something scares me off. Something scares me off, and then I'm like, you are really totally crazy. You're gonna destroy yourself with this obsession. And then because I didn't have any support, any groups I belonged to, I was doing everything by myself. There was nobody to tell me, okay, this is okay. Other people went through it, because people in my environment that I deal with in person, there is nobody that is even remotely interested in this stuff. And then I felt like, yeah, something's wrong with you. Why can't you be happy like other people are. Like, what do you even want? And you know how the whole thing goes. And that's been happening for years and years. And that's why I'm here now. I feel very, very blessed that I heard about Liberation Unleashed and about you and about Pernilla's work. And so now I reached out, and I hope that things will be clarified. And
Well, I'm glad that you did. Now, the first thing that comes up for me when you say all of that is, first of all, that you have been running from those sensations in the body. All of these searchings that you've done from teacher to teacher, from book to book, is a way of escaping what is here in the moment. And my guess, based on the very short talk that we had before this, is, if you don't mind me bringing it up here, you were a refugee. I'm
yes,
assuming there is a large amount of traumatic experience that you've been through in your life before you made it to Canada, right? And my inclination is to think that you notice it. It's not, when you sit down to meditate and the mind gets silent, it's not that the meditation is making this sensation worse, or that the meditation is causing this contraction in the body. It's that that contraction is always there, and you're just not aware of it most of the time because you're out interacting in the world. The mind is busy, and every time you settle down, it's so loud that you can't help but hear it and feel it. And that's incredibly difficult, right? So in order to keep from feeling that, you keep reaching for a new distraction, whether it's Eckhart Tolle, Tony Parsons, whoever it is, and it keeps you back up in the mind going, well, maybe it's this other thing, I want to get rid of it. But actually it's this sadness and this pain that's locked in the body. So everywhere along the process, it can be really useful to be able to come back into the body and to deal with what's there. The good thing is you don't have to go back to those traumas directly. They're not happening now. You're in a safe place now. You're older now. Things are okay where you are now. So all that you have to do is to be able to feel those sensations. And that's what largely has been, you've largely been avoiding doing. And for good reason. It's very uncomfortable. So what we're trying to do now is to just realize that we can be comfortable with those sensations, because that's all they are. And when we talk about getting lost in thoughts about all of these things, it's all taking us out of that sensation. And even the label of that as grief or trauma or something else is still a label that's making that sensation even bigger and more painful than it would be if you just experience it directly. So the first thing I'm going to ask, in all of the practice that you've done so far, have you worked with direct experience much?
just lately, I watched a beautiful video on a website, Liberation Unleashed, and it is called Direct Experiencing, and it was so good, so nice. One thing that I'm not clear about is it seems that if I put attention on that sensation becomes bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if I'm doing the right thing. Maybe I shouldn't have my attention direct on sensation. Just leave it alone and let it be, but put my attention on something else. Because I don't know, like my attention to it, I feel it, how it's growing, and it starts choking me almost. I can almost feel it here, like, and I'm like, no. Me putting my attention on it makes it much bigger. So I'm not sure if I'm doing it right.
So that is something that can happen when we put direct attention on either physical pain or emotional pain, the way that it manifests in the body. It can, in the beginning, actually seem to get worse, or increase in intensity, I should say. But notice what happens in terms of the reaction to that. So right now, let's just, if you don't mind, let's just explore it. So where in your body right now do you feel that contraction?
Mainly my throat and my solar plexus.
Okay. Now, when you go to put your attention on it, can you describe to me your process of what you're actually doing when you look at it or when you hold it in attention?
I try to see what is there, like visually, and just to feel it. And a lot of times, and even now, like I can feel burning, like, and then intensity. It's about intensity. It starts, okay, I can tolerate this, but my attention seems to make it bigger and
Okay.
strong and stronger. And then it keeps increasing to the point when I just can't take it anymore.
At the point that you can't take it, or just before the point that you can't take it anymore, what is it, even though the sensation is bigger than it was to begin with, what is it that makes it more unbearable?
I feel like I'm gonna vomit, I'm gonna throw up. That's the feeling I get.
Okay. Notice your breath when you feel it. Do you find that you've stopped breathing or that you're breathing very shallowly? As you hold it in your awareness, feel the breath still going deeply into your belly. And notice that even though the feeling of the sensation seems big and maybe even seems to be growing bigger, your feeling of the body can be even more expansive than that sensation. So right now you're holding an image of your body as this small finite being filled with this overwhelming sensation that's going to burst and you just can't contain it. But realize that the image of yourself is already a limited image, that you can feel yourself as expansive as the room, and that sensation has all the room that it needs to grow if it wants to grow. And if it grows to fill the size of the room, your body can be bigger than your entire building. Your body can be as big as the town. You can give it as much space as it needs to just be felt. And as you do this, just keep breathing. And when you remove the labels from it about what it might be or where it might be from, just recognize the sensations of warmth, tingling, and see if there's really anything unpleasant about those sensations the way they are. Are you okay?
Yes, this helped a lot, like expanding. I felt a big relief. It's like the outside line of the sensation was erased, and then it was just diluting itself, and then it became much more bearable because it wasn't so contracted into that little space in there. Just it was like erasing the outside line of it, and then
Beautiful.
okay, maybe that is the way to do it. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It feel like giving it more space. Okay, that may be the key.
Yeah. No matter how big it gets, you can always be bigger.
Wow.
So I would suggest for now, put aside all of those other teachings and the other readings and stop the comparisons, because that's just pulling you away from where you need to be. And seeing through the sense of self, or seeing through desire and aversion or subject object or any of that, none of that is going to completely alleviate that contraction unless you just allow it to be felt. And that can, the sooner you do that on the path, the easier everything else becomes. And in terms of the Fetter work, the other ones might even fall when that contraction is eased, because there's resistance to it, which is, again, understandable. We tend to run from anything that seems uncomfortable. But there's also identification with it, because when you felt maybe I'm doing something wrong by meditating this way, it's on me, I'm making this happen, and then you're taking that on completely unnecessarily, but you're also reifying that sense of a self. And so you're actually defeating the purpose of all of this, is to see through and realize that there is no self there, that it's just a process that's happening, and that there are just sensations in the body. And it's only thoughts that are labeling them as grief or pain or joy or sadness or anxiety or fear. There are sensations appearing that are sensed and felt by, essentially, by the sensations. There doesn't have to be a hearer hearing. It's all one and the same. And every layer of Fetter is a layer of identification that we're dropping. So the first is the identification with thoughts, that feeling that there's a stable entity here who is, has lived this life, who has experienced these experiences, who is making these choices and going to become awakened in the future at some point, and is going to be living a better, freer, more peaceful, easy existence. The only thing that matters is what's right now. And you had said before this, I forget who it was that you mentioned, that said that when all thoughts are dropped, when you're not identifying with the thinking, that there's just this.
Yeah, Michael Singer, I think, Untethered Soul. So I did that. So that's why I felt I need someone to tell me where I am in my spiritual path, because I feel I did drop that. Like, I really don't identify. I can see my thinking very clearly, and I really don't believe it. Like, it's so ridiculous. Sometimes that I'm amazed by what comes in here, and it's very mechanical, and it just repeat. It's a loop, and that has been seen like long time ago. Like, and however, and then I dropped into my body, like from head, I dropped into the body. But this is like, it's not comfortable here. I don't want to be here. It's not nice in here. It's not, like, and that's where, because I think I needed to hear someone to tell me, it's okay. It's okay. You are not doing anything wrong, because that's where the doubt was. Am I doing something wrong? Do other people do this? Like, why is it, if I'm doing the right thing, I should, because I kept hearing that if you are doing the right thing, you should start feeling better. You should see improvement. That's how you gauge it, if you are doing or
No,
going in the right direction. And I'm like, no, I'm just feeling worse. So back up, like, that's not a way to go. And that's, I believe, what was happening with me.
yeah, yeah. On the contrary, there's even in the just mindfulness meditation world, there's that old saying that if you have a handkerchief that's completely dirty, you don't realize how, if it's completely black, you don't realize how dirty it is until you clean off one little speck, and then you realize how much the rest of it is dirty. And that's more of a metaphor for most of the time. Before people start meditating, they don't realize how completely filled with chatter their mind is and how completely identified they are. And then when the mind starts to settle down a little bit and you get the briefest glimpse of peace, you go, oh my God, my mind is crazy. I must be getting worse, because now you're for the first time noticing just how wild and out of control it is. But then as we work through these deeper parts of awakening, and we're seeing through self, and we're seeing through the further fetters, we have a certain amount of defense mechanisms that have been put in place over the course of our lives to keep us from feeling things that are uncomfortable. And as you start to lose these layers of identification, all of your defense mechanisms start falling away. So now anything that you've been suppressing successfully for decades is going to come to the surface, because there's nothing there to hold it back. So that's why actually the more progress you make, the worse you can feel at times, because you are going to have to deal with anything that's in the past that has not been dealt with. I mean, not specifically situation by situation like that, but if there are bigger emotional patterns or bigger, underlying uncomfortable sensations, those are going to have to be felt at some point along the process, because they are going to keep coming back. And I don't know how or why any of this happens, but there does seem to be a thing where when people are on this path, life seems to throw plenty of opportunities your way to encounter the things that you need to work through these old issues. And so you'll notice that similar situations arise that keep bringing up key issues. If you had self-worth issues in the past, you're going to keep coming into situations where you get to learn, if you if you want to re-engage with these self-worth issues over and over again until you can be with what's there and release them, and whatever your things are. So it's not a path for the the weak of heart, because it is a path to remove suffering, but you have to go through some stuff to get there.
Yeah, I think I needed this confirmation. Like, I am willing to go through it. I sure am. I just needed to know, that that's a way to go.
Yeah.
That, like, because that scares me when I start feeling worse. it scares me. And that's that doubt that keeps coming back, saying you are doing something wrong. You are doing something wrong, because you wouldn't feel worse. You would feel better.
No, no. For some people haven't been through much in their life. I mean, we've all had traumas, no matter how big or little. But for some people, they live very sheltered, blessed existences. So as they go through this thing, there maybe isn't that much to work with. Some of us have been through harder times and have had seen things that have left deeper internal scars, and it's going to take a little bit more to a little bit more space to feel those things. But it's all relative. People who have very sheltered existences and haven't experienced much, for them, not having received that pony for their 16th birthday could still be a very traumatic thing, and that could still be something that they have to work through, and that's going to be very painful. So I'm not judging anybody for having a less difficult or more difficult existence. We all have what we need to have, and how we deal with it is going to be on a case-by-case basis. But you have I can see you have the real passion to get through this.
I do. I definitely do. Like lately, I don't even have any desire, which may not be healthy either. As I mentioned, I tend to go to extremes. Like I don't even, I do what I have to do. I go to work. Like my family is always there. I'll always be there, connected to my family. But everything else, like I don't have desire to go out or go see a movie, which I used to. I don't have any desire to socialize any other way, because I'm just not interested in the topics. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I better go and watch that video. Maybe I'll find
Yeah,
maybe I'll find a way out of this.
we have
Maybe
all been
someone
there.
will tell me, finally, after all these non-duality videos, someone will tell me.
We have all been there. But the irony is that we can use any experience. Going to the movie can be just as much of an insight experience as listening to a non-duality speaker on YouTube. It's everything comes back to our direct experience. And so even if you go to a movie and you're completely caught up in the film, say it's not even something that doesn't disinterest you, but you get really caught up in it, notice what it's like to get caught up in a story and recognize how that relates to your everyday existence when you are getting caught up in stories. I know you said that you don't have much identification with the thinking right now, but if you do notice that happening throughout the day, recognize how just the same way that you can be completely caught up in the emotional roller coaster of a good movie, and you're really invested in these characters who are not real. They're actors, they have other lives, and yet we can be completely taken in by them. And by that same token, we do exactly the same things in our daily life all the time. Whether it's my history, my future, my family, whatever else, these are all stories that we're interacting with. So any experience is an opportunity for investigation. So I tend to be somebody who I'm a big proponent of constant investigation, constant self-inquiry, and not necessarily in terms of using, some people say like just look for what am I over and over again, or what is mu, or whatever your point of inquiry is, and just stick with that one. I'm more experiential, where throughout the day, anytime that you feel like you're selfing, anytime that you feel like a me, a self, an independent agent operating in this world, investigate what is happening right now in your experience that is creating that illusion.
To
And
go into direct experience, or
direct experience. So scan the body if it's a physical sensation, scan the mind if it's a if there's a thought. A lot of times we have these very subtle thought images that we spend most of our lives not even aware is there. It's like an internal body image that's kind of always hanging someplace in experience. For me, it's kind of halfway, through here, and it like looks like the body essentially, hanging in space, and that attaches to all of these thoughts like it's a way of binding everything together into a me. And when you start to realize, oh no, there's just another image thought, and there are auditory thoughts, and they're completely unrelated and completely distinct from each other, and none of them are in any way pointing back to something that actually exists as a permanent self. That's a moment where it can fall away and you can just be spacious. Have you experienced that?
Yes, 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 I did, I believe. And what's happening lately? In the evenings, if I sit down, for example, even at work, when things calm down, my residents go to sleep, and then I have some downtime and stuff, like it's just, I can relax and just sit there. So I tend just to sit and look, not really focused, but just, open, or even home. So I noticed that even watching YouTube videos, watching the screen, like something opens up. Mind stops, I see everything, I hear everything, and it feels very, very peaceful. And intensity, for example, if there is light, it's like intensity of light is sometimes times 10. Things become so bright. I'm like, what's going? It's so bright, 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 bright. And then the sharp edges of the objects, they kind of, it's like I'm under the water, and the lines of objects are not so sharp. They are kind of like this. And it's so peaceful. And what I've been doing lately, I love it. It's like uh, uh, so nurturing to my body, I guess, after all the tension in the body. And just sitting like that, now, anytime I have a chance, I have some free time, I try to get into that state, and I just sit there, and I feel like I'm I'm dissolving, I'm soaking some presence or whatever it is, and it is really nourishing my body, my soul, my ah, and
Absolutely
it's
beautiful.
very peaceful. So that's something that gives me hope. Like I see that those moments are possible where I think that contraction releases. That's, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and what's
Yeah.
happening there? I'm assuming in that space, from what you're describing, it sounds like there's no thought identification happening at that time, right? So you're just being.
Yeah, those moments are beautiful. But I have to be doing nothing. It has to be, like very quiet, nothing going around, so I can kind of drop into that
Okay.
state. I don't know if it's possible to live like that and be active and do things, or even if there is any sense to even try doing that. But it's good. It's like recharging. It's like plugging my phone and
Yes.
recharge. It's like I plug myself to recharge in a way.
Yes. Yeah. And in fact, so I would say it's not that you're going to live the rest of your life in that space, but it is possible to do that while moving. Have you done Vipassana practice before?
No, breathing, mindfulness, and loving kindness meditation is the only things I did.
Good. And actually, so I will go back to the Vipassana, but I just want to, since you brought up the loving kindness, do you practice that for yourself as well as for other people?
Yeah, that's how I start. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
good,
the first thing.
good. Okay. Do you have an okay time doing that for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
good, good. Um, so as for the Vipassana, um, a lot of Vipassana is a sitting inquiry into physical sensations, but the one that I really love, and I've put a couple introductory discussions of on or introductory practices of on my channel is the see hear feel technique by Shinzen Young, and it's a very very simple technique, and it's something you can do absolutely every time throughout your day, no matter what you're doing, and it sensitizes you to being in direct experience all the time, no matter what you're doing. And so basically all you do, and there are different variations of this, but the whole practice in a nutshell is, say you're walking down the street, become aware of where your attention is being pulled. Maybe it'll be to an external object first, like a mailbox, for instance. So you notice what you're looking at, use the label see, because you're recognizing that your attention was drawn by something that you're seeing. And for 2 or 3 seconds, absorb that sight into you, like it's almost like you're a dry sponge, and then you put the dry sponge in water and it goes and sucks up the water. You're doing that with the visual field, and you'll notice it actually becomes closer, brighter, more colorful, like what you were describing with the other sitting. And then just let your attention go, and maybe you'll hear a bird. So then you say in your mind, hear, because you're hearing this bird. And again, absorb the sound into you. Just let it come in. And you'll notice that not only do the sounds get louder and closer, but they'll start to lose uh, some of their spatialness. Like instead of happening, okay, well, the bird is 100 meters to my right, you can actually start to realize that the sound is actually happening inside your head. There's that's all an extrapolation based on the dimensions of the ears and how far the sound is hitting one ear before the other and all of this stuff. So that changes. If you let your attention go, and as you're walking, maybe you notice the feeling of your feet hitting the ground. So you label them feel, because it's a physical sensation, and fully absorb the attention of the feeling of feet walking on pavement, and really feel what that feels like. And you just, every 2 or 3 seconds, you just let your attention find a new object. You don't have to look for a new object. If you find the same object over and over again, just use the same object over and over again. You're just noticing whatever is catching your attention. The same thing goes with thoughts. So if all of a sudden you hear your voice in your head, label it here, and just notice what you're hearing. It's just sound. It's no different. The voice narrating in your head is no different than a speaker from a television set across the room, or somebody else yelling across the street in traffic. And just be aware of it as sound, and absorb into not the content of the thought, but just what it feels like to experience the thought itself. And the same thing, if you have a memory or an internal image in your head, it's just see, and just recognize where that internal mental image is happening, and how uh, what it's like in your experience to notice that. And then the one that people find the most tricky conceptually is the internal feeling sense. So when we talk about feel, we're talking about the whole feeling of anything in the body. And for this practice, we also include taste and smell. Um, but we're also, so feel, that's considered like feel out. It's like an external feeling. Feel in is any physical sensations that are attributed to emotions. So if you feel a sense of sadness coming up, notice just the physical sensations associated with what we're labeling as sadness, and label that feel, and just completely absorb into what it is to be sad, or what the sensations are that are taken as being sad. And you can do that, and you can do that doing absolutely everything in your daily life, and it gets you into that direct experience state no matter what you're doing. And you will notice that everything is changing. So you're getting an insight into impermanence. You're seeing that nowhere in your experience have you found a self. All you're noticing are experiences being experienced. And as you do that, at no point will you notice that there is a self seeing this thing. It's just a mailbox. And it's not even a mailbox, because the mailbox itself is a label. It's just this complex color and shape that just becomes very vivid. And where is it being seen, and who is seeing it? And then attention goes elsewhere, and recognize that you aren't even moving your attention. There's no controller of your attention saying, oh, well, now I'm going to go listen to that sound of a bird. Okay, now I'm going to choose not to hear that car that just drove by, right? None of this is in our control. And so the more you do these practices in your daily life, the more all of these insights just become, oh, right. And, even the thoughts that we have that we think we know something, we realize, oh, I don't even know who thinks that they know, or I don't even know how I think that I know. And you can really have these direct realizations by doing this.
Wow, that sounds really interesting, and it almost sounds like a game
It is a
that
game.
may
Yeah,
be, like
it,
very, very, like,
it's deeply
yeah,
enjoyable. It's deeply
yeah.
pleasurable, because you get to experience the world completely fresh and new every moment. And it's just filled with insight. It's absolutely incredible.
I'm gonna give it a try. You said it's called Vipassana?
Well, it is a type of Vipassana meditation, but this one is specifically called CSEE, hear,
Yeah.
feel. Yeah. Um,
Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's pretty fantastic. And again, it's super simple. There are other variations of it that you can do to, you know, enhance the feeling of, or the witnessing of change and impermanence, or restfulness, or peaceful feelings in the body, or pleasant feelings in the body, or things like that. But this is kind of the basic practice. Uh,
Okay, I would like to ask you just your view on something. I was listening to a Buddhist teacher, and he was saying that it's very important to cut all conditional feelings. For example, even joy or sadness or neutral feeling, anything that is just cut it off. And the way he was explaining that is, it's like a boat that has a hole in it. And he said, if you let it in, the water is coming in, and then the boat starts sinking. So as a prevention, like why to deal with that, just stop it from coming in. As soon as you see any conditional feeling that cause pleasure or pain, doesn't matter, or neutrality, any conditions, cut it off, cut it off. So that was another one that, yeah, as I mentioned, me following so many different people, I felt I'm in a maze. I don't know anything anymore. So what do you think about that approach? Like
it
that comes from Buddhism, and you were involved in Buddhist
does.
teachings. So that's from Theravada, I believe.
Yeah, that's a very Theravadan sort of practice. I went down those roads for a while, and I'm glad that I did, in terms of learning certain things about experience afterwards, but they actually caused some real issues that have taken a long time to unwind, because it's not about having a, so if when you say that you shouldn't experience anything, right? Whether any conditional feelings,
Anything
it's not,
conditional.
it's right. It's not okay to experience something that's pleasurable. It's not okay to experience something that's neutral, and it's not okay to experience something that's painful. The problem is you are now setting yourself up and making all of these things a problem. There's identification there that I can't experience that thing, that this is wrong, and you're setting up a dichotomy there and a duality, that this is a good thing to feel absolutely cut off and neutral. That's a bad thing because I felt good about that thing, like I saw a sunset and it gave me pleasure. No, I have to turn away from that. You're creating so much self-identity there, and you're actually reinforcing the things that you're trying to see through. If you actually enjoy a sunset, there can just be enjoyment of a sunset. There doesn't have to be hooks into that. It's when you identify that, oh, that was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen, and I'm so sad that it's over, and I have to take a picture of this to show everybody, and this is going to be, and tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to spend my whole day preparing to come to this next, because I want to see another sunset. And, oh, today wasn't as good as the last one. That's where all the suffering comes from. In the moment, you can have joyful experiences and it's great, and you can have very miserable experiences, and that's also great. If you come at it from this point of equanimity and complete non-attachment, anything that you experience is okay. You don't have to take that extremely strict posture where you just create so many more knots for yourself, because now you're avoiding so many things in your life. And believe me, I did that. I'm a musician, and it was like I stopped listening to music, I stopped watching TV. It was like, oh, I'm enjoying this thing too much, I can't do that, this isn't pleasurable, I shouldn't be doing that. And nope, I have to be strict, I have to have willpower. And all you're doing is reinforcing that sense of somebody who can control, somebody who has free will, somebody who is higher than thou, like, well, all these other people can go out and experience this stuff, and if they want to be deluded and live for 1,000 more lifetimes, that's their thing. I have to get through this now. And it just creates so much resistance to what's actually happening. And instead, what we really need is to just be okay with what is happening and just experience it. And if that brings joy, lovely. If that brings pain and suffering, well, now that's something for us to look into. Because why is this causing pain and suffering for you right now? What are you expecting that isn't happening right now? Or why can you not be okay with what's happening right now? We have something to work with. But if you just cut that off, we have nothing to work with. We just have a constriction of identification against all of these other things. So
yeah, and what comes next is like right effort in Eightfold Path, like how to look at right effort. If there is no self, right, and us trying and putting effort to do the right thing, like there is some contradiction there that I'm trying to,
so many of these things are because we're talking on two different levels. There's the ultimate level and then the practical level. So right effort really is doing what happens naturally. It's like this natural unfolding, because again, there isn't a self there who's doing it. So whatever is happening is in effect right effort. There can be identification that sort of tries to pretend that it's controlling things. It pretends that there's a belief that you can steer the vehicle, but it's actually a self-driving car, right? But there you can hold on to it and you can move. The steering wheel isn't attached to anything, but there can be thoughts there. They're like, look at me go, I'm steering. You're not steering. So from let me step back even another layer from that. So everything that happens, it's not like it's all completely random, right? It's all a product of infinite number of causes and conditions that are all happening together in this interrelated web that lead things to this conversation happening right now, right? How many unfathomable causes and conditions had to have been in place for this communication to be happening? Because this communication is happening, it's now changed something in both of our existences and everywhere else in the world. Even before this has gone out on the internet, any of that, things have changed. The world is different because of this communication. So when you encounter new information, it's not that that new information doesn't have any effect. It's just being fed into this infinite number of connections of these causes and conditions. So everything that happens produces more changes, right? And so by hearing the teachings of right effort and having, if you are somebody who has never heard of Buddhism before, you can hear these teachings, and if you still have a feeling of being a doer, still have a feeling of being able to affect things, those thoughts are going to possibly move something in you, possibly not. A lot of people hear about Buddhism and it doesn't affect them at all, and they just go on a different path. But if for whatever reason, based on the causes and conditions that are alive in your system right now, if they touch something in you, they are going to influence your behavior in the next moment. Every moment, our brain is doing something different. Our being is something different. We're constantly changing. And so that right effort is, in one way, something that is happening spontaneously based on having even heard of the Eightfold Path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, depending on, like, there are, as you've seen, there are lots of different flavors of Buddhism, and there are some very contradictory teachings based on, because there are some that are very adamant about no self, and others that is barely even talked about, if at all. You know, there's some that are very strict on the dogma, and some that are, nope, just sit and watch your breath, or, you know, visualize yourself as a thousand-armed Avalokiteshvara, or nope, just, you know, sweep the floor. And so there's something for everybody, but it's because everybody has different proclivities. Everybody has their own part of this interlocking web of causes and conditions. And so there's something to speak to everybody. So you just find what resonates for you in this moment. And anytime that we start to get caught up into the minutia of the conceptualizations, you know, you're pulling yourself out of experience, right? Just keep coming back. That is all stuff that monks can have debates about, and that's great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't impact you when you just want to come back to what is, and just see that there's nobody there who's debating this stuff. There's nobody there who is conceptualizing these. They're just thoughts, thinking about thoughts.
Yeah, I think in Eightfold Path, it's moral conduct is the main thing. Like they stress a lot the moral conduct, which may, like I can see that as the starting point. Like you really, I think we need to clean up our life a little bit in order to even be able to spend some time in meditation in peace to calm down the mind or something. But I guess all these teachings, they have something to offer for the right person, for the right time. And then when you feel, you know, it's time to move on and find something else, just move on. And
Yeah, you follow the intuition, and just recognize if you're really following your intuition because this thing feels right, and you have this real lit up expansion in your body, like, oh yes, that's the thing, I resonate with that. Or if it's, bypassing or pushing, distracting from, okay, no, this feels uncomfortable, I need to find something else, and okay, well, that's the next life raft that I can grab onto, so I'm just grabbing onto that thing because it's there and it's distracting me from this. Well, then that's not probably the right thing for you. You really have to find what Pernilla calls the body yes. It's that
Yeah.
real feeling of expansion and opening in the body that goes, oh yeah, that's the right thing. I resonate with this.
Yeah, what resonates with me the most is, as Pranila was talking about, like, have some compassion. Like, she talks a lot about bypassing and gaslighting. It's just so cruel in a way, and I so resonate with that. Like,
Me
we
too.
are just pushing everything, the parts of ourselves, and then, if we really think, like, my goodness, what I went through, and there was nobody to ever give me a hand, and to hear, okay, can I do it for myself now? Then the heart opens, and there is no judgment there. And then if we can do it for ourselves, then we can do it for everybody. But if we are closed to ourselves, what can we offer to others?
Exactly. That's why I asked if you had a hard time doing the metta bhavana loving kindness for yourself, because a lot
Not
of us
really.
have a
Like, my
difficulty.
main problem, like, so from my understanding so far, it's my biggest obstacle is allowing these strong sensations. Like, I don't feel that I'm putting any labels. It's just pure, raw sensations, but they are so strong that literally they make me sick. I feel like, where is the bathroom? Can I get to? If it, like, it comes so strong. So, like, I just need someone to tell me it's okay, go through it. Like, you are not doing anything wrong. Like, because it really feels like it's just too much.
Absolutely. Yeah, but there's nothing there that's going to hurt you, and there's nothing there that you are actually causing. You're not, it's not, like I said, it's not a product of a practice or something that you're doing. It's something that's
It's
there.
there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's just being avoided.
And now I feel it's a checkmate. I'm like, this is there is no exit. I just have to do it. Like, I just have to. So, what do you think, Todd? Just to every day spend time, like, being with the sensations? Is
If you
it
if you can, keep it manageable. This isn't a practice of self-torture either. Be
okay?
be compassionate with yourself, even in terms of how often you do this. You're not,
Okay.
like, I know you want to get through it, but
Okay.
be gentle with yourself. Be kind,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's the body will release it on its own. You just have to provide the space for it to do it, and just do it as much as you feel comfortable.
Okay. You really showed me a good way at the beginning of our talk. Like, so erasing those outer lines, it helped expand it, and then it wasn't as overwhelming because I gave it more space. So I will definitely work with that and
Wonderful.
see how that goes.
I hope that, yeah, because again, I think it's going to be easier to tell where you are in terms of the path of, identification and fetters and all of that. Once some of this has released, I think you might be surprised. Um, in terms of, well, I've only gotten through one of the questions that I was originally going to ask about expectations and fear, but I think we kind of peripherally got to some of them. I guess the one thing that I didn't specifically ask is, do you have any fears or anxiety or reservations about this process? other than that you thought maybe you were doing something wrong by making those sensations stronger?
This process, no, no. I'm just tired of feeling like this, that I'm really willing to do anything it takes.
Good, good. If at any point anything does come up, just let me know and we'll work through it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, you still have a little time, right? Are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Okay. Um, so is there any place in your daily experience where you would say that you feel like a self? Other than the contraction that, was kind of binding you.
I feel that it's more that I'm identified with this awareness. I do feel identified that I'm the one that is aware of. Like, I don't feel that I identify with the object of awareness, but I may very well be identified with awareness. That's where I feel this is me. This is me. And also there must be some identification with the body because sensations are a huge issue for me. So there is something there. So sensations and identification with awareness. I feel I am awareness.
Good. So we'll tackle the body at another time because that'll be easier. The more comfortable it is to be in the body, the easier it is to really explore the sensations in the body that are being associated as a me. But as for awareness, can you right now explain to me, where is your awareness?
Like it's here. Like obviously awareness doesn't have a form, so there is I can't locate it, but it feels it's here, it's present, it's all around. It's all around. And yeah, definitely there is no form, so we can't really locate it more
Is
precise.
is it experienced in any of your sensory fields?
In any of my
How
oh,
how do you know that you're experiencing awareness? If it's everywhere but is not directly witnessed as an object, how do you know it exists?
I almost feel it. I almost feel it palpable. It's almost like a field around me. I feel my body is in that field too. I kind of tune into it, and yeah, I kind of have a sense of it. It's not a form, but it is faintly palpable.
So can you right now tune into that and see if it's experienced with any other sense other than your physical sense?
Yeah, everything is in it.
How far out does it expand?
All my visual field, like it's like the room that I'm in. I can sense it in the whole room, but not further than that. So I guess my visual field.
If you look out a window, do you have a window around?
Yes.
If you look out a window, does it continue extending out as far into the distance as you can see?
I can, but not so strongly. Not as strong.
And how do you know that the visual field is within this almost palpable sense of a field?
Like the objects in the field.
Can you feel them, the objects?
I can see them, but they are not as solid. They become a little bit more malleable.
I don't want to go into the too far into the sixth fetter stuff with this because we're leaning in that direction right now. So when you okay, so what is your indication that the things across the room are actually across the room from you? Like they're in your visual field and they seem to be all the way across the room, and you're assuming that they are captured within this space of awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you determining that that thing is across the room and not happening essentially at the same zero distance as the images in your mind?
Yeah, this is a funny space because I can almost bring it closer to me. Like it's just the way I focus, like it changes the distance. And interesting, the distance becomes it's like there is something there in the space. Like it's not empty. It's there is some substance. It's not completely nothing. Like it is kind of strange.
Well, that what you're talking about, that flipping of going from distance to right here, that's something we work with the sixth fetter. And that when that falls away, everything can feel or look two-dimensional and very close and very flat, because that's actually how we're experiencing things before the brain um, projects this three-dimensionality onto the objects.
I can
So
see that brain is a funny thing and makes all kinds of stuff. One other thing that I noticed a few months ago, like just looking in my bathroom, there is a big mirror, and like when I look into my reflection, something is just different. It's just so different. I can't look into my own eyes. It's like my body is part of like, I feel that before my body was standing out, but now I feel my body is part of the whole environment. And it's very, very, very hard to look into my eyes in the mirror. I don't know what that is. And those are the things that scare me. That's one of the things when I notice something like that, I'm like, you are going crazy. You are going too far. You're gonna make yourself sick.
it's so funny because there are mirror practices that we can do that yeah, they can be unsettling at first to look at oneself in the mirror, um and to look into the eyes. And I sometimes do that actually, just because it is a very strange very strange thing that can have some unexpected results. But putting that stuff aside for the moment,
Yeah.
I still would like to go back to that sort of palpable sense of what's between, me and the other side of the room. um
Uh-huh.
is it possible to sense that as let me change the way I ask that. So if you can experience everything as being right up as sort of zero distance, like really close, right up, what happens to that sort of almost palpable sense of feeling that was spanning the room between here and the other side of the room?
It's gone, I think.
So was it really there to begin with?
No, I'm becoming more and more convinced that our brains make up a lot of things, a lot of things.
They do. So when you feel that almost palpable sense of awareness and assume that this awareness is me, that I am stretching out into the room, that this is a feeling of that, well, you notice that it was within your bodily sense, right? It was within, you're feeling it within the felt sense of the body.
Yeah.
So notice if there is something other than a thought, which is indicating that this felt sense of, I'm assuming something like a buzzing, a tingling, a vibration, something like that, maybe. See if it's a thought that is pointing you to say that this is awareness and that this felt sense is also me, because this is here, this must be me. Notice if that's a thought or if there's something else in your experience that is proving that to be true.
Sorry, Todd. A lot of things just go over my head. That's
Okay,
another thing. I just like it. Just
it's okay. These
I
are
hear
subtle
you, but
things.
then it just goes over.
No, it's okay. These are subtle things, and I'll keep trying to say them different ways, because
Okay.
sometimes one thing one day will click and another day times they won't. For one person, something clicks. For another, it's completely out of their experience and it just doesn't, there's nothing there. So I know you said in the beginning that you are really aware of your thoughts as being this kind of internal process that's just sort of happening.
Machine. It's
It's a
like a
machine.
machine. Yeah.
What is aware of those thoughts?
Well, that's what I thought I am.
Okay.
That's what felt like self. I am aware of. I'm not thoughts, but I'm aware. So that's what I am.
Okay. So that I am is immediately a concept, right? Because it's a label of something, and a concept is just another thought. So, because you can't have a concept without a thought about a concept, right? So the label I am is just another thought. Now, it might be pointing to an actual felt experience, but what is that actual felt experience? Notice when you have a thought and you see this machinery of thoughts toiling, circling, 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 and you feel like all of a sudden now, all of a sudden you are somehow away from this, aware of this toiling cycle of thoughts. What is this awareness actually? Are you having a thought that says, oh, look at those thoughts just going, coming up and noticing that these are just thoughts? Is this thing here also just another thought? Be aware of what it really is that is saying, I'm aware of thinking. Isn't that just another thought?
Yeah, but before that thought, there is that recognition. Before it becomes verbalized. That's my feeling. Before there is that narrator saying, "Oh, there is recognition. There is that knowing." That's I don't know if that's something I made up but that's
Investigate that. So that's where we do our direct inquiry. And I know what you're talking about. So feel into that sense of knowing, that feeling of seeing that. And it's like a pre-verbal feeling of awareness of those thoughts, but in which of your experience, in which of your sense fields are you witnessing that awareness? Because again, everything that we experience, everything is either a smell, a taste, a feeling with the body, a visual object or visual sight, something in our hearing, or a thought, which is either any number of those things in thought form. That's all we have to work on. In our experience, that is the only list of possible things that we can experience fall into one of those 6 categories. So that awareness that you are taking to be me, or I am this awareness, in which one of those 6 fields is that being witnessed? And you might find that there's a composite of multiple of them. Maybe there will be some physical felt sensation, maybe in the head. Maybe it's going to be something to do with an internal mental image, or something with an external image, some other version of thought involved. But this is for you to actually explore and see, when you feel that, how is it being known? How is it actually being known?
Yeah, that changes. That's so weird. I almost said, "Oh, it's around my head." That's where the feeling, and I kind of just zoomed into that field, and then it started, like expanding, and it's so like that's why I said at the beginning, I just don't know what to believe. There is nothing to trust because everything seems to switch, like, oh yeah, this is what it is. Next thing you know, no, it's not, and then like,
Because there is no graspability. You can't know
no,
anything. That's
you
the
can't. You try, I've got it.
yeah.
No.
No, you can't. And that's sort of the end game, is to recognize that you can't ever know anything, and that you never really did know anything, and that there's just nothing there to grasp, but that it's liberating and it's freeing. Because it's not that there is a little isolated self who is floating in a giant ocean with nothing to grasp onto. That would be terrifying. It's the fact that there is no little independent self separate from the ocean. There is just ocean. An ocean can't grasp ocean, right? There is nothing separate there. It's all just water. A water can't grasp another water. It's just merge.
Yeah, it would be beautiful to live like that. Is it I know that we can sense those things and we can experience them, but is it possible to live like that?
It's with enough of this practice, and at the very least it gets to where you know that that's true internally, even if you don't experience it all the time. Even if you go around pretending that you're a character again for a bit throughout the day, you always know that you can come back to this complete okayness. And the more fetter work that you do, the more of these identifications fall away, and the more you can live from that sort of space. And, again, different people have different experiences. Results may vary, but it's definitely, you're still going to be able to function in the world as Tonka, as a member of your family and working a job and all of that, but without that clingy identification that says, this is me, I have to protect this thing, this is all so important for me and my future and my history, and all of that, all of those attachments can be seen through. and you can be more free to actually do the things that are beneficial to you and the other people in your life, because you're acting out of compassion and not out of a sense of fear or duty or responsibility or guilt or shame or any of that stuff. You can just be in this kind of natural process.
It does feel like a home. Like a home. Yeah, I have a memory. I don't know like where it's coming from, but I have a memory as a 2-year old, like my father having me on his shoulder, like all the, I don't know, like what, like I just have that memory, like being that little child and looking around me in amazement, like, wow, everything was, and that was haunting me, like haunting, like that was just like that. What was that? What was that? I need to find out what was it. It was so beautiful.
That's
Like
incredible.
like I don't know, like if it's really a memory or, but it is, it's stuck there. I don't know, like there is that vision, there is that 2-year old one, like my father put me on the shoulders and I was just amused with the world around me. Like,
Honor
and
that,
I
because
don't
that,
know.
yeah, and that's a guidepost. That's again, it's not healthy. Well, it's not healthy. It's not helpful to set too many expectations up that,
Yeah,
this is going to be
yeah,
the thing, and when I experience this, then I will be there, and I won't be awakened until I feel like that. But that sense of thing can be a reminder. It can be a really beautiful, beneficial thing to remind you what it is to live without that sense of self, what it is to live in just complete awe and love with everything that you see. And that is possible. Um, again, just don't concern yourself with how it's going to look now or when it's going to happen, because it's only going to happen now when you release the thinking and just come to this.
yeah. In a way, I, of course, I can't repeat anything, like, but I'm just mentioning because it's, I don't know, it's just, it gives me some kind of a taste. It's like I remember a taste
Yeah,
of something different.
yeah. And that's why a lot of people who have psychedelic experiences, who, take mushrooms or acid or something, they have these transcendental experiences, and then they start searching for decades trying to get back to this explosive
Mhm.
sense that they had one time. But the problem is then they can start to get really caught up in, well, I think I've seen through self, but I'm not, cosmically one with everything. The room hasn't
Yeah, yeah,
melted
yeah.
into rainbows or whatever. And it's like, well, no, you're not on acid. That's probably not going to happen this time, So having that sort of just no expectations, and just whatever is happening is whatever is happening without the labels.
Yeah,
What
not
is here?
chasing experiences, like
Exactly. And
yeah,
not comparing your experiences to other people.
yeah. That was very helpful too when I watched Pernilla's videos talking about biochemistry in the bodies. I
Yeah.
just realized, oh my goodness, of course, we are all very unique. This is the body of this age, of this gender, of this biochemistry, hormones are like this. How can I have the same experience as a male that is in his 20s? Of course not. Our hormones are so different. How can
Exactly.
I expect to feel the same thing and experience the life from that body mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of put things into perspective, and it really didn't make sense to compare yourself because our genes, our conditioning are so different, and they do paint our perceptions for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the key is to find what is under the perception too. That's where unity is, I guess now
You
these are
can
my
drop
beliefs.
those. Yep, you can
Uh,
drop those concepts.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
even
yeah.
because when I point to things like, the ocean not grasping the ocean or whatever, these are just metaphors, and don't get too hung up on the
Yeah,
direct experience of any of these things, because again, it might not be happening in your direct experience.
yeah, 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 yeah. Just back to direct. What is it here? Yeah.
This has been so good. Do you have any other questions for today or anything that you?
No, I do feel very happy that we had this talk. I feel that I feel some expansion, which feels good, and at least I have an idea how to work with these strong sensations. So
Yeah, and try the see, hear, feel practice.
okay,
And
I'm gonna
yeah,
find that. You have that
I'll,
video on your channel?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I'll
I'll
send
watch
you. I'll
that.
send you links to those. I'll also send you. I have a video on 7 tips for working with pain, which also are very useful for dealing with this internal contraction, emotional pain too. So
Mhm.
you can always check that out. And uh, oh, and yeah, and go back to that inquiry of when you feel like I am awareness, what is actually making up that sense of awareness? How is that awareness showing up in your experience such that you recognize this thing as awareness, and keep coming back to that?
Sounds good, and I'll try to do that Vipassana form of bringing the
Yeah,
sensations in. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I can do that at my work too, and nobody will know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of these things, is that you can do it absolutely everywhere, and it's completely inconspicuous. You don't have to find a dark room to sit in for a half
Yeah, yeah,
hour. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
as you go about life, and I swear you're going to enjoy your job so much more, because you're going to witness things in such detail and such vividness that yeah, it's like experiencing things for the first time, because
Okay.
you are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all the first time. Well, thank you so much for this. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you next week. And if at any point during this you have any questions or any want to relate anything to me, you can write through the forum or an email. But even the forum is helpful for other people too if they're on the forum. So if you have specific questions related to any of this, you could always write me through there, and we can correspond on there too.
Okay, Todd, thank you very much. I'll have to figure out how the forum actually works
Okay.
first.
We can email about that afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
gonna, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks.